Urbanization is a widely spread phenomenon in the Philippines. It is often associated with advancement in the modern world. Most people perceive an urbanized city to be a trait of a developed country. According to the World Bank in 2017, 45% of Filipinos reside in urban areas. The statistics show almost half the population living in metropolitan cities. It could be that a large number of Filipinos view urban places as lands of opportunity, success, and wealth. However, urbanization comes with a price. High-rise structures instead of trees, and black smoke from vehicles replacing clean air. According to Growing Buildings 2017, the release of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the construction process begin with the transportation of the materials. This constitutes to 6 to 8% of the emissions. The mixing of materials to create other necessary components such as cement cause 5% of the carbon emissions. Construction of residential and commercial infrastructures itself is responsible for 39% of the carbon dioxide emitted. They also produce waste. Metro Manila, one of the 3 metropolitan areas in the Philippines, generates 25% of the total garbage of the country, with which 16% are plastics. The wastes that are produced by urban cities greatly contribute to the carbon emission of the country. To help resolve the problem with carbon emission, we thought of applying the principles of green design and green architecture into our solution, a mandatory implementation of the Philippine Green Building Code of 2016 to mid-rise and high-rise buildings. With this, we use local materials and plants, and at the same time, recycle excess or used construction materials, thus our thesis statement. Through this, we can restore green spaces in modern and urban settings.
This study deals with one of the current issues in the world right now, and that is carbon emission. Each individual leaves a significant amount of carbon footprint on a daily basis, and this carbon footprint is continuously increasing. This was proved by Dara's study 2018, where she showed the carbon emission of the world increased from 39.8 billion tons to 40.9 billion tons of carbon footprint from year 2017 to 2018. This increase of carbon emission is caused due to the lack of trees and green spaces. According to Leah's study in 2015, trees helps to reduce carbon in the atmosphere, but due to urbanization, these trees are being cut down. According to AGE's study in 2012, there are worst negative effects of lack of green spaces. This includes polar ice cap melting, economic consequences, increased probability and intensity of drought and heat waves, warmer waters and more hurricanes, and lastly, the spread of disease. All of this, including the problem and the consequences, Philippines is no exception to this problem, including the global carbon emission and the lack of green spaces. And we are involved with what may be the consequences of these problems.
Generally, buildings and other infrastructure projects are considered to be large entities that are made up of different various materials. These materials consume physical resources throughout time. Now, according to the latest statistics of the Philippine Statistic Authority in 2019, for the first quarter of the year, the construction industry grew by 3.9% due to the various projects of the government. Thus, the industrial sector and the residential sector now increased its carbon emissions in the atmosphere. The effect of unsustainable construction leads to the use of unsustainable materials. So according to PETCAR in 2014, if the consumption of construction materials remain constant all around the world, then by the year 2050, the production of cement alone in the world will reach 3.5 billion metric tons of carbon emissions. So generally, the life cycle of materials undergo 5 stages, in which the first two are the most damaging. The continuous act of mining and harvesting of raw materials from the natural environment and the process of production to finished materials emit the largest amount of carbon and uses the most natural resources. So, second effect of unsustainable construction is the leftover debris of buildings, whether it's on the initial stage of the construction or the final steps of demolition of the buildings. Each stage and development creates inevitable demolition waste which emits carbon. Lastly, unsustainable construction leads to the loss of green spaces and trees, since it does not take into consideration the environment and its surroundings. Aside from lessening the carbon absorbing elements in the atmosphere, the loss of green space creates an unsafe environment for the people since it negatively affects their whole well-being.
With the problem being said earlier, we came up with a green roof solution by using local sustainable and recycled materials as building materials and by incorporating local plants with high carbon dioxide absorption within a structure can surely contribute in decreasing carbon emission in the environment. Recycled polyester geotextile layer will be used for the base of the floor. For the walkways around the space, a mixture of recycled concrete, reclaimed tiles, and bamboo wood will be used. For the walls of the space and the railings will be made up of local and reclaimed wood to complement the landscape of the roof. For the benches and seating areas, it will be made from recycled plastics, textiles, and glass. The plants that are most appropriate for green architecture in the Philippines are maki, eugenia, duranta repens, lady palm, foxtail palm, bamboo, and finger grass. Are the plants that sequester high amounts of carbon dioxide from the environment.